Hi guys, and welcome to another Divi video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, in this video today we're going to be customizing buttons. I added some buttons the other day, and when I added them they came in as purple like this with the blue hover, and somebody asked me why is that, because usually the default's just an outline. Well, it's really easy to customize the buttons, and we're going to take it one step further as well by using a bit of custom CSS. So firstly, the reason why mine were purple, if we go to our theme customizer, and to get to this go down to dashboard, down to Divi and to theme customizer, and here it is. And if you look, you've got a little button drop down right here, and you can set the button style, the text color, the background color, the border color, border radius, letter spacing, etc. here. And if we go back, you can set a hover state, background color and text color. I've got my hover state set to blue. So that's really easy to do. That's why my buttons turned out purple, because that's the default that I set there. And once you've made your changes, hit your publish. Now you can take this a lot further if you want to use a bit of custom CSS. And if we go back to the root, there's our buttons. Right at the bottom you'll see an additional CSS box right here where you can add custom CSS. So I'm going to put a title in. It's a good idea to put titles in if you write a lot of CSS, that way people can find it if somebody else edits the site after you, or even yourself. If you've got a lot of lines of code in there, it's just easier if you put a title in there. So that's /*// and anything you write in between the two stars there will not be read as code. So I'll just say buttons. Okay, as you can see, I've got two buttons here. They've got different amounts of text in them, and that's making them different widths. Say if you wanted all your buttons to be a common width, despite, doesn't matter what sort of text is in there. Well, let's start off with that. And I'll put this CSS below the video, so don't worry too much about copying it as I'm doing it, and you're welcome to use it if you wish. So to do this, we've got to find out what the class name is for our buttons. Now I'm using Google Chrome here. Most browsers nowadays have this option. If I right click on a button and hit inspect, it's going to bring it up here. And here's the class name. Class equals ETPB button. And here are extra classes, that's the number of that button, etc. But that's the bit that I really want to work on today. So if I just left click on it, highlight it, put my cursor just at the end of that first class name and copy it, Control C, now I can target my buttons with custom CSS. So it's a class name. All class names have to have a period or full stop before them, so hit the full stop and the class name. Now let's open and close some curly brackets, and anything in between will affect our button. Okay, well, first thing I want to do is make them all the same width when they come out. I want all my buttons to be the same width, no matter what kind of text is in there. So I'm just going to say width, and I'm going to say 200 pixels. And as you can see, that's instantly made both those buttons the same width. And that's kind of nice if you like uniformity on your site. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Okay, well that's good. You can transform the text to be uppercase. So we'll say text transform, uppercase. And as you can see, it's all capitalized there. What else might we want to do? If you wanted to, you could give them round corners and make them sort of pill shaped with a border radius. You could set this up in your buttons, or you can set it up here. And to make them sort of pill shaped, you just want to give it 50 pixels. And as you can see, they've now got those nice round corners. What else might you like to do? You might like to have a bit of box shadow. Now you might notice when I hover over it, it reverts back to the square corners. We'll take care of that in a moment when we write our own custom hover state. So let's add a little bit of box shadow just for fun. And you can, do anything you want with a bit of CSS. It's really useful. Let's say 5 pixels by 5 pixels by 7 pixels, and let's give it a color of perhaps 777, which is a dark gray. So it's hashtag 777. And you can see that you've got a drop shadow under there now. Let's actually take that back to 0 for the left and right, so it's actually in the center. There we go, that's great. Okay, now what if you want to make your buttons fatter, wider top and bottom? You can't use the height, that doesn't really work very well, but what we can do is change the actual line height of the text. The line height is the space between lines of text. So let's go in here. We may have to force this. I'll say line height, and let's perhaps give it, I don't know, 3M. 3M. Now that's not worked, so let's try putting important after it and see if it will force it. Now I don't like to use the important attribute, but sometimes you have to, so it's exclamation important. And as you can see, that's made our buttons a lot taller. Alright, so we're sort of happy with that as the general sort of state. Now when we hover over them, we'd like to do sort of similar. We want to keep that border, and we'll change color perhaps. Might make that box shadow a little deeper, and perhaps have the button scale grow. So I'm going to copy this class name again, Control C, drop down just below where we were, paste it in there. Now this is important. After the word button there, put a colon in with no gap after the word button, and then no gap after the colon, and write in hover. And this will allow us to set the hover state. Open and close some curly brackets. Okay, the first thing we want to do when it hovers is we want that border to stay the same. So let's put that in there. Again, we may have to force it, we'll see. Okay, let's put the important in there. Like I say, we could have set this up in the buttons above, but we're doing it with Custom CSS. So there we go. So now it's staying with the nice rounded corners there. Now let's take our box shadow and just make it a little bit deeper perhaps. Of course, everything is up to you. So you've got left and right, top and bottom, and that's the actual spread. So let's maybe make that 15. See what that looks like. As you can see, that spread gets a lot bigger down the bottom. That might even be a bit too much. So let's bring this down to say 8 and change that to 10. Just play with it and get it how you want it. There we go. That's sort of almost giving it an effect of being lifted out. Okay, what if we want to make this button slightly bigger when we hover over it? Well, we can use a transform scale to do that. So again, on our hover, let's drop down one more. I'll say transform colon scale. And how much do we actually want it to transform by? Now don't put a gap after the E on scale, no gap, and open some regular rounded brackets and close them. In between you put the amount that you'd like it to scale. and you can do sort of 0.5 if you want it to shrink, or 1.5 if you want it to grow. Now you have to do the width and length, so you've got two lots in there. I'm going to say 1.1 comma, and now for the width I'll say 1.12, or 1.1 as well, I guess I should say. No comma after that. Just put your semicolon afterwards. Now it's really important when you're doing CSS, put your semicolon after each one. If you don't, it won't read the next one. Okay, so let's see what happens there. As you can see, that's growing a little bit. So we're in pretty good shape there. There's not much else I want to do to this. Perhaps slow the time down that it takes to grow and shrink and change color, and we can do that with the transition duration, and we need to put that in the main one, not in the hover. So let's go down from our last entry there. I'll say transition duration colon and the time amount. You can do it in seconds or milliseconds. I'm going to say 1 second. That's pretty slow, but it'll get my point across. Now again, we may need to force this. Let's try it. Yeah, that's still doing, I think the default's 300 milliseconds. So let's add our important. I'll just copy it from here and paste it afterwards. Well, there we are. That's a lot more gradual. That's taking a second to grow, and the actual color change is taking a second to go from the purple to the blue. So that's great. When we're happy, let's save our changes. Once published, let's go back to a new page. When I refresh this page, they should change to our custom button styles there. Great. Now if I enable the visual builder and we add a new button, it should come up with exactly the same style. Great, and let's just add a little button below this one. Go down, add a button. There we are. Okay, we've got a little bit of a problem with our text there. It really wants to be aligned center. So let's just add that to our little code over here. And we can do that by just writing text align center. It doesn't matter where we put it. And let's say text align colon center semicolon, and let's publish our changes. We'll save the page changes. Let's just save this, save our page changes. And let's refresh the page. And as you can see, our text is now in the middle. And we can change the writing, and like I say, doesn't matter how much or how little writing you put in there, they'll still remain exactly the same width. That's great. And of course you can go into your design and change this. If you've got a one button that perhaps you want to be a different color, you can go into your design, go to the button, use custom styles of button, and you can change just that individual button quite easily. Background color, let's make this one red, and of course let's do the border color too. Border color red. Save our changes. And exit the visual builder. And as you can see, there's our button. Like I say, you can change custom ones for individual buttons in the design tab there, but every time you add a new button, it's going to come out with the styles that you've dictated in your custom CSS. So there you have it. I hope you found that useful and enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, comment, ring the bell, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie with System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.